Okay, we are now live, everybody, so be careful what you say because it's being recorded. Here's our agenda for tonight. A lot of stuff to get through, but it should not be a problem. Okay. Excuse me a second. Actually, the software seems to be working fine. It's just operator error on my part. Here's our schedule, class schedule for the next 5 weeks. It's also posted in the portal under course calendar if you ever have a question as far as when we're doing what. Okay. Here's my contact info. That's my cell phone at the top. Of course, NGS email, and then my Gmail email, which comes to my cell phone. So if it's something that, time critical, if you will, I will see it sooner probably than with the NGS email. To answer your burning question of just who the heck is this guy, just a quick one-page summary for you to give you a little bit of my background. Okay, rules of engagement for the class. All right, be punctual, be prepared, respect each other. There is no such thing as a dumb question. Part of the value, in my opinion, of the collegial environment is that we can get philosophical, we can talk outside the box, we can come at things from different perspectives, different angles. I would suggest there's a lot of value in that. Okay? Challenge the ideas, not the person. We do have to be careful. There's 12 of us total. So as best we can, let's maintain relevance to the discussion. But any experiences you want to share, with reference to what we're talking about, that's welcome, and we don't have to be overly disciplined in that regard. I do welcome all feedback. Encourage you to participate. Folks, if you let me do all the talking, this is going to be awful boring. So please, participate and contribute. I'm asking for that. Okay. We want to make it worthwhile for everybody. Let's make the most of our time together. Okay. Let's bring value to what we're doing. And then finally, in the event of any discrepancies or ambiguities with reference to what the syllabus might say, or other written communique, instructor directives supersede everybody but the big guy. Okay. My approach to this class, to all the NGS classes that I teach, is that these are executive level briefings to accomplished professionals. Okay. I emphasize cooperation, collaboration, team building. Okay. We want to incorporate the concepts, strategies we're going to discuss into your assignments and of course into your MVP. Okay. I do expect every team member to be accountable regarding the team assignments, and just because you might have a subject matter expert with regards to graphing or charts or statistics, when the team submits an assignment, everyone on the team is responsible for understanding what was submitted. And the reason I do that is the most important thing is your education. I mean, that is why we're here. So you need to be accountable in that regard. Okay. What I want to do what I'm asking all of you, slide in front of you, to the best of my ability, I'm going to facilitate the learning process. I stress, quality over quantity. And we want to leverage the assignments and the work we do together. What I ask of you all, for any Latin scholars in the crowd, carpe diem, seize the day. Make most of our time together, okay? What we're trying to do here is improve your own individual skills, your managerial abilities, and your leadership capacity. Setting the tone for our class, couple favorite quotes I'll put up there. I'll give you all a couple minutes, actually about 30 seconds, 30, 45 seconds to read that. They're some of my favorite quotes. I will take the time to read the last one, that luck is the last dying wish of those who want to believe winning can happen by accident, or success can happen by accident. Sweat, on the other hand, is for those who know it's a choice. So decide right now, because destiny waits for no one. Okay. I had sent you all an email for your bios or resumes, and then a copy of your team PowerPoint. I did receive those. Thank you very much for that. I think I got everyone's bio. I don't really remember if I did or not. I didn't count them yet because I was getting some at the last minute. If you have not had the chance to send me your bio or resume, please do so at your earliest convenience. That helps me when I come up with examples, analogies, discussion questions, things like that, to know your background. Okay. Want to talk briefly about discussion questions. Okay. The initial posts are due on Saturday night. The responses are due on Monday night. Now, if anybody thinks that I'm going to log on to the portal at 3 minutes after midnight to see who logged on and who didn't, folks, we've all got bigger fish to fry. Okay? The discussion is only as good as the contributions to it. And you all are, like graduate students, you're accomplished professionals. So let's just make the DQs worthwhile. If anyone doesn't participate, the facts speak for themselves, and I'll deal with that as I have to. But and by the way, I don't care about word count or anything like that. I want to see that you've thought through the issue that we're discussing and that you gave a thoughtful contribution or post. Let's see. Okay, team assignment protocol. The team assignments are due the Monday before the next class. You'll notice that each team assignment is a specific slide for your project. Each class, we're going to evaluate each team's submission. When we review the work of another team, please assume the role of that team's guiding coalition. Provide that team with questions, feedback, constructive criticism. Consequently, you'll receive the benefit from understanding and evaluating all the MVPs, not just your own project. This process that I'm using here, it's got proven success. I've used it at Space Command, Fortune 500, different places that I've been, and it works very well. Okay. Now, one of the goals of this program is that the graduates have the ability to define a problem, analyze it, determine the best solution, and then implement the solution. Okay. We're going to leverage your projects to ensure that you have the skill sets not only required to do those tasks, but also lead a project team. Okay. Additional items, just some quick hits. Grades. I'm Santa Claus when it comes to grades. When it comes to grades, looking down at the, excuse me a second. However, I will be asking for your best. Okay, I'll be pushing you to get your best. I want professional quality work. Please, if we don't do that, you're not going to have the skill sets coming out of here that you need to actively compete in your respective marketplace. Every one of you has a family, another job, a job that you're doing, another job or a job, okay, and other things that I don't even know about. Scheduling conflicts will happen. We'll work around them, okay? Let me know as soon as practical, and we'll do what we got to do. Now, I want everyone to come to class as prepared as practical. But that's not always possible, okay? I take no pleasure or get any satisfaction of trying to stump people, play stump the dummy, or any other silliness like that. Even if you're not prepared, please show up to class, because showing up unprepared is still better than not showing up at all. Okay, if you've had some scheduling conflicts, you had to work night shift, if your little one has been sick and kept you up all night, let me know. I won't ask you any questions, but it's still worth your while to come to class. Minitab, if you haven't already been introduced to it, is one of several graphing softwares with DMA templates. Just want to bring that to your attention. 2 items in supplemental materials: U.S. Coast Guard Performance Improvement Guide, affectionately known as the PIG. Okay, it's a really good document. It's an excellent document. Put that in there. When you have a chance, please take a look at it. And I use it all the time. I think it's the 7th edition that's in there now. I think it's very much worth your while, to download a copy. It's in PDF format. If I didn't think it was worthwhile for you, I wouldn't have put it in there. There's an ABC case study, activity-based costing case study. It's from the previous edition of your textbook. It's only 4 or 5 pages long. It's a very good case study, and if you look at that, we'll be referring to it later in the course, but if you look at that and you can understand the flow and what's going on and how they articulated the case study in there, then you've got a good handle on what's going on. Okay. IT contingency plan. Okay, Jay, I'll get to you in a second. IT contingency plan. If you log on and there's problems, the GoToMeeting, is not up, and whatever IT difficulties we're experiencing, our backup is I'll be sending out NGS email to update you on the circumstance and to identify, what we're going to do if we're having class, if class is canceled, just whatever. Okay. Finally, call me anytime. Okay. Now, if you call me at 3 a.m. and say, sir, we're trying to settle a bet here, where the ship's made out of wood or metal when you were in the Navy, I'm probably going to tease you about that next class. But if you're working on an assignment and you reached a point where you're going in circles or you're not sure of the guidance that I gave you, don't waste your time guessing on something. Reach out to me and we'll work it out together, and I'll give you some direction. Okay. Jay, to answer your question, this is just an introductory slide deck that I put together. I can post this on the portal when we're done if anybody wants me to. And I'm looking at the chat box now. But these are just my welcome aboard slides. So, okay. Finally, we're going to talk about this guy later in the class, but there's a Air Force fighter pilot by the name of John Boyd. He developed, I'm sorry, hang on a second. Air Force fighter pilot by the name of John Boyd. He developed what is referred to as the OODA loop. He developed it for air combat maneuvering or dogfighting. It's where you observe, orientate yourself to your environment, make a decision, pull the trigger, and then go right back and observe again, and you keep doing the loop. Okay, that agility, flexibility, that is very relevant to how we're going to be resolving some problems and issues. Taking that to the next step to get an organization to act like that is very challenging, but it can be done. And this is just a slide, it's just a graphic depiction on how an organization can utilize those same OODA loop principles. Okay, and with that being said, I'm going to turn the software off, dictation software off a second, and see if anybody has any questions. Anything from the audience at this point? And Jay, did you want me to post this slide deck?
Yes, sir, if you don't mind.
No, not a problem. Not a problem at all. That's easy. That's 30 seconds and 3 mouse clicks.
All right, roger that.
Okay. That's out of the way. Bring this over. Can everybody see the initial page of lesson 1?
Yes, sir.
Okay, super. And yeah, okay. Yeah, see, and Matthew's familiar with John Boyd. How cool is that? Okay, software is back on. Sorry. Okay, there's our agenda. Moving through that. Key objectives. Folks, don't worry. I'm not going to read every slide to you. Okay? But analytical skills. Okay? Quality in traditional finance and accounting. We're going to discuss that. I know the title of the course is Financial Systems and Lean Accounting. What we're really going to do is discuss traditional accounting systems, lean accounting systems, but we're also going to take the work you have already done and articulate that in a financial context. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, and when you do that type of thing, it provides another, what's the word I'm looking for? Another component of relevance to any project, because a lot of leadership folks are going to be asking the question, why do I care about this? You're talking about a cost of poor quality, inefficiencies. Well, how much is that costing me? You'll be able to answer those questions with credibility. Key topics. I'll let you read that slide instead of me droning on about it. Key course topics continued. Cost drivers important. Return on investment we'll refer to as ROI. More to follow on that. That's critical. Whoops, I'm sorry. Payback time is also extremely important. Just real quickly, whatever it costs you, the investment, if you will, to institute or to implement the resolution or the fix to the problem, how long is it going to take you to get that investment back? That's what I refer to as payback time. We will be discussing that in detail, and the other two that are on there as well. We'll be utilizing case studies, of course, presentations, and simulated exercises. Case studies, these are in the syllabus. Okay. This might be a good time while we talk about that real quick. I'm not going to break out the syllabus unless someone has some questions on there, but please be familiar with the syllabus so you know what's coming. You get a good feel for what we're doing. And this also might be a good time. Posted on the portal is your team slide presentation guide. Take a look at this at your earliest convenience. It breaks down the slides that you're going to have to do for your presentation. And it really just piggybacks on what you've already done. But I spoke earlier about the skill sets that you want to come out of this program with. The ability to define a problem, evaluate it, come up with the best solution for it, and then implement that solution. Your problem statement flows into your CRM. Okay? Your Ishikawa diagram in your Pareto chart articulates and summarizes the analysis of what you've done. Your root cause analysis, okay, identifies specifically where you need to focus your efforts to fix the problem. And then the future state process map or value stream map tells you how you're going to change the process. Your cost of poor quality slide identifies how much money, how much efficiency, how much productivity, how much opportunity cost is a result of a lack of efficient operations. And then your recommendations, implementation strategy slide are going to tell how you're going to fix it. Okay. Your return on investment slide, along with your payback time, shows in a financial context the consequences of your project. How much good did it do? And of course, we're going to look at the financial benefit. Along with the financial benefit, we'll be identifying productivity or efficiency improvements. Okay. So when you have the opportunity, please take a look at this document, and it is posted on the portal for you. Oh, I'm sorry, my mouse is very sensitive. Okay, a little bit of a history lesson. We're not going to go into tremendous detail here. Back 30s and 40s, how were quality and quality systems identified and utilized. Okay, a couple quotes there from some previous execs. Okay, started 20th century. The control efforts were more or less inspections, and they would repair defects after the fact. Now we tried to, that morphed into increased emphasis on appraisals, and then more contemporary, you're trying to improve the process to eliminate as many defects as the process is going on. Okay, this is a conceptual slide. A lot of these are conceptual. Okay, so to give you some historical context for what we're doing and how we've gotten to where we've gone, it is worthwhile. I don't expect anybody to memorize this. So moving on here, some Walter Schuhart. Okay, he came up with control charts, or he's credited with pioneering control charts. Most of you, I suspect, are familiar with them. Okay. Obviously, cost emphasis and cost failures, and then how you intervene in a process to actually resolve the inefficiencies. Again, very straightforward concepts. When you actually do it or attempt to do it, things can get interesting. Geron's Quality Control Handbook. It's a little bit dated, but it's still, see, this is the point where you realize I'm a closet geek. This is, it's a good handbook, okay? It's worth your while if you can get a copy, for free or reasonable cost. Just flip through it, maybe take a look at one or two of the chapters. While I'm talking about it, or while I'm thinking about it, as you come out of this course, you want to be developing your network of Lean Six Sigma, DMAIC, quality control colleagues, and it's very much worth your while to do so, whether it's trade associations, internal to your organization, or whatever. I just noticed that this thing that I'm using is not, there's a problem with it. So please excuse me 30 seconds and I shall fix this and we'll be right back. And I apologize, folks. Okay, let's see if this works a little bit better. Okay, modern period investment shift from repairing products after the fact to prevention and appraisal. Okay, CDAs are cost driver analysis. You will be doing those. Hidden costs, root causes. I know those are terms that you're intimately familiar with, and I know you all get excited about that. Okay. History of quality-based finance shows the evolution, okay, in finance, financial reporting, and also in how quality assurance is being dealt with. Okay. Refer to a core process improvement. I'll give you a second to read through that slide. And I'm going to go to some specific subcategories now. And I'm going to turn the dictation software off for a second. Is everybody still awake? Everybody still with me? Somebody clear your throat or something so I know you're still out there.
We're here, sir.
We're good, sir.
We
Okay.
hear you.
All right. Thanks, folks. I know this is dry. I mean, it's really dry. I want to get through it. Hang on a second. I want Matthew to hear this. I know this stuff is really dry, folks. I'll get through it as quickly as I can, but I don't just want to run through it. I know a lot of you are probably taking deep breaths. One or two might even be sticking a fork slightly into your eye to maintain, attention span here. But it really is important that you get some appreciation for the history of quality control and how it's been, how it's developed and the evolution of it over time. It's not exciting, but it's important that you, again, understand the basics of it and that you are exposed to that. We'd be doing you a disservice if we didn't. So just please bear with me. I'll get through it as quickly as we can, but it's important for you to be exposed to this stuff. Okay. Cost categories. Okay. Quality cost working definition. Okay. The difference between the actual cost of a product, okay, and what the reduced cost would be. You'll hear me refer to things the cost of poor quality, which means the cost of the inefficiency in that process. Okay. This is a conceptual slide. Whoops, I'm sorry. This is a conceptual slide, but it is an accurate slide. If you wait until after the fact to fix the quality problems, whether it's a manufacturing product or service or whatever, that's geometrically more expensive, or geometrically larger, than if it can be done by preventing that what's the word I went for, that problem, preventing that inefficiency from ever occurring. Okay, that's the takeaway from this slide. Cost categories: prevention, appraisal, and failure, internal and external failure. Okay. Total quality costs, this is from your textbook, by the way. Prevention costs, appraisal costs, and then the two failure costs. Add those together, and that's what the total inefficiency cost is. Okay. ISO 9000. A lot of you are probably familiar with that. That's come a long way. It kind of had a bad rap for a while, but it is definitely being improved. Also from Matthew, I want to take a second. Just in the chat room, you guys can read it. That's a great example, Matt. Thank you very much for sharing that. Okay, Jack Campanella, who is the editor of the previous edition of your textbook. Okay. Activities specific design to prevent poor quality. Folks, you'll hear me say over and over, there is value in simplicity. There is no need to make anything more complicated or complex than what you need to. Especially if it's important, why jeopardize the efficiency or the effectiveness or the success rate by introducing unnecessary layers? Some examples of prevention initiatives, if you will. I'll let you read them. Appraisal costs from the same source. everything that you do of any importance or relevance needs to have an objective metric. Ideally, the metric can be automated and can be of a low cost. But either way, to rely on someone's gut feel or collective intuition of the group for a measurement of quality or relevance or efficiency, that's just doomed to failure. Okay, appraisal examples. Give you a second to go through that. And examples of appraisal costs. When you think about it, there is a distinction, but it's not extreme, and there is some overlap. But the more complex the process, that's when the distinctions between prevention and appraisal provide value for you. Everything we do, if it doesn't help the process that you're working with, if it doesn't help you do your job, what good is it? And being able to objectively decide with objective data is something that's not as common as you might think. Okay, failure costs. Okay, costs and product services that do not conform to the requirements. Internal and external. Again, let's not make it any harder than what we have to. Internal is prior to the delivery of a product or the furnishing of a service. External is after the fact. Some examples. Give you time to read through those. Accounting and financial concepts. This accounting by itself is an entire profession and an area of expertise that people have PhDs in accounting. So there's no way in 15 minutes I can make you all subject matter experts in accounting. But it's important that you have an appreciation for accounting systems. And the traditional accounting system does what it's supposed to do, but when we try to use it to evaluate the efficiency of a specific process, the traditional accounting system is not very effective. So what we're going to do going forward here, I'm going to give you an overview of accounting and traditional accounting. And then we're going to talk about a thing called activity-based costing, which is actually what you've been doing without us labeling it as such. And then we're going to move on to other things. I'm going to pause this just a second. I'm going to pause this just a second. Everybody doing okay? Anybody got any questions? You still with me, everybody?
Still here.
And I didn't know who that was, but you said it was such enthusiasm, but I do appreciate the effort. I really, really do. Okay, we continue. In accounting, there's a thing called journals. Every action, the receipt of a bill, the payment of a bill, the receipt of assets, raw materials. They're posted to journals. They're summarized in ledgers. There are two accounting statements, which is the profit and loss, or P&L, or the financial statement, and the balance sheet. We'll talk about what those are and why they're important. A profit and loss statement. The short answer on a profit and loss statement is it compares revenue or sales against expenses incurred during the same time frame or calendar period. And that's important. Okay? How much sales were brought in and what was the cost to the company. You put those two together, that's when you know whether the company is profitable or not. Direct costs, direct materials, direct labor. Trust your instincts. It's just as the name implies. We don't have to get any more detailed than that. Indirect costs, overhead costs, just like the name implies. Okay? They're not directly part of an end product. For instance, rent or the mortgage on the warehouse facility, but the costs have to be recognized. Okay? That's where you're getting the term overhead. This is a copy of the General Motors income statement for, let's see, what year is this? 2011. The reason I put this on here was just for you to see the format of a Fortune 500 company. And notice you have over here total revenue, cost of the revenue, then gross profit. Down here, operating expenses, and then underneath that, you've got income from operations and other expenses. Now, every account on here is identified, and there's specific rules on how the data is interpreted, and that's referred to as GAT, or General Accounting Principles. Okay. We're not going to get into that, but so that you know, of course, there's a government regulations that determine and define what are specific revenues, what are specific expenses. As you can see from here, a company this big, the leadership's going to want to know, okay, monthly, quarterly, in this case, annual or yearly, did we make a profit or not? But there is no way from this income statement, from this income statement that you could identify, let's see, it's General Motors. So the Chevrolet Tahoe, was that production line profitable? What about the Malibu? What about the Corvette? What about the Camaro? The more complex an organization is, the tougher it is to evaluate individual product lines. That's where activity-based costing comes into play. Okay. This is a breakdown. Okay, it's a conceptual slide. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail. It complements the slide you just saw. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the balance sheet. Assets equal liabilities plus capital. Capital is sometimes referred to as owner's equity. Okay. This is the accounting equation. Any assets that you have, if you own the building, you own the equipment, you own the vehicles, you own everything, and you have zero liability, that will equal your capital. If half of your assets are financed, then assets of, say, $1 million, the other side of the accounting equation would be then $500,000 liability, $500,000 in capital or owner's equity. without getting into too much detail, accountants use what's referred to as a double entry accounting system. If something is added to an account, that's a debit. If something is taken away from an account, that's a credit. Every transaction, for instance, a debit to cash because you took cash in, but then a credit to accounts payable because with that cash, then you owe something for that cash, or a credit to sales if you're recording a sale. Okay, it can be extremely complicated, and it's definitely not intuitive. I only share that with you now so that you all know accountants use double entry accounting systems. That's all you need to know, double entry. Okay, whoops, I'm sorry. Here's your balance sheet. Okay, your assets, total assets, in this case of 144 billion with a B, add up the liabilities plus the stockholders' equity. And here again, if you're trying to evaluate are assets being used properly, or as if, let's see, in our example here that we're talking about General Motors, so, God bless, hang on. In our example that we're talking about here, the cost of the utilities for the Tahoe plant vice the utilities and heating expense for the Corvette plant, how do those two match up? How do you go about evaluating that? What information do you need? Danielle, that is pretty much full screen. However, I'm going to move on. You won't have to deal with that anymore, and I apologize for that. Okay, traditional accounting consolidates all the expenses into an enterprise-wide category or account so they can summarize overall profitability of the corporation. Activity-based costing examines the individual processes. What I put up on here, that's a long-winded way of saying what I just said. Traditional accounting summarizes all the expenses into broad enterprise-wide categories. Activity-based costing examines the individual processes. Okay. This is referred to, and this is a classic example. That's why you're seeing it here, because it's used a lot. The quality cost iceberg. Okay. In an iceberg, you only see approximately 15-20% of the entire iceberg. A lot of it, the majority of the size of an iceberg is below the surface. We use that as an analogy here. Okay. You have to dig, you have to know where to dig, you have to get the information in order to make an informed decision. I'll let it go at that. Okay. And taking the iceberg analogy one step further, if we were to say, hey, the Titanic sunk, what happened? It hit an iceberg. All right, fair enough. But if we dig down a little bit deeper, what was the root cause of striking the iceberg? Then just here's some hypothetical root causes put on here for our analogy. Okay. You've already been doing this, okay, even though you might not put it in a financial context. You looked at individual processes and you've identified inefficiencies or failures within that process. And you've had to find its root cause. what we're going to do, part of what we're going to do, is put a financial amount to the failure costs. Okay, strategic quality planning. Okay, I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. It's a 4-step process, but this is one approach to doing it. We do a modification of this approach, and it's not right or wrong. Okay, what we're doing, the complexity. I always adapt the methodology to fit the circumstances I'm working with. I don't try to force feed the problem into a generic or academic methodology. Okay, and I'll let you read that quote from the White House conference on, see if I get to it. There we go. I'm sorry, folks. On managing quality. I'll leave it at that. Okay, strategic planning with I'm sure you've heard the phrase, begin with the end in mind. Okay, strategic planning with regards to cause and effect issues. Okay, often you'll need to prioritize your focus, and we'll talk about that in a little more detail in a couple slides here, as I give you a chance to finish reading that. Just in case you're wondering, not all of my lectures are this long. Okay. In articulating the inefficiencies, the Pareto chart, the Ishikawa diagram are very helpful in doing that. With reference to the Pareto, the peaks, meaning the biggest column, the tallest pole in the tent, that's what they're referring to when you hear that. You probably heard that already, just checking. In this case, damage, okay, is obviously seems to be the biggest problem. So if you didn't have the resources to address all of these, my initial thoughts would be, let's see if we can't positively affect what's causing the damage. Okay. Then level of nonconformance and also the cost. All right. The label problem, the rate of occurrence is fairly small, but the impact is significant. So that would lead me to believe this is where we want to focus, and the actual occurrences aren't that numerous. So, in that sense, that might be the path of least resistance. Okay. Satisfaction measures, give you a chance to read through that. Obviously, the satisfaction level of the customer, whether it's internal or external customers, it is something that we always take into consideration. Okay, this is pretty much redundant. As far as examples, what the consequences were, those are very generic, but they're also relevant. Okay, step 1, that's your problem statement. You've done that. Step 2, they call it brainstorming in this slide, but it's really your analysis. Okay. Step 3, initial strategy, your initial recommendations, your beta tests, and then 4, implement it. I want to take a second here. It's very common to see in Lean Six Sigma, in DMAIC, quality assurance efforts, a tremendous amount of energy and resources are spent in evaluating the problem and coming up with a proposed solution. But I would like to suggest to you all that after you've implemented the solution, to maintain the gain, maintain the focus of the end users and the leadership of the organization so that all that work isn't lost 1, 2, 3, 4 years out. That's pretty important too. Okay. Quality mission and the business vision. All right. Going up to a fairly high level, if you will, in the planning and within the culture within the organization. Okay. Mission statement. I'm going to go through this pretty quick because all these are required slides, but I know you've had this before and it doesn't get into the meat and potatoes of accounting activity-based costing. Vision, values, and goals. I don't want to, is poo-poo? How do you spell poo-poo? I don't want to be disrespectful of these because all of these are important to any organization. Okay, and it speaks to organizational culture. Strategies supporting data goals, results. These should be they should be complementing one another. If there's a disconnect in the relationship between here, okay, this is like your strategic alliance, if you will, strategic alliances. That's problematic. Okay, but that also reflects on the leadership of the organization. Strategic flow process, business drivers, objectives, tactical plans, and goals measured by tangible results. You've got to have the right metrics, folks. Without the right metrics, a lot of your work goes unrecognized and is very inefficient. Okay. Activity-based costing, cost of poor quality, activity drivers, root causes. Root causes should be a review for you. Direct and indirect costs. And we talked about that. So, okay, this is important. This is real important. Okay. Costs of poor quality. Costs must be articulated with specific metrics or measurements that demonstrate the actual consequences of the non-performance. If you don't do that, you're not identifying what you need to fix. Okay. Additionally, opportunity costs must be acknowledged when they are significant. Examples of non-conformance metrics. Take a second, read through that. Should not be a surprise to anybody. Okay. But at the same time, you want to be familiar with the scope, potential scope of what we're dealing with. Okay. Activity cost drivers. What's driving this inefficiency? What's driving this cost overrun? Okay. A specific activity or process can have more than one cost driver associated with it. Bullet number 2, it's a factor that influences or contributes to the expense of certain business processes or operations. Okay, continued. Let's see. I guess the takeaway I want on here, second bullet, okay? The cost driver is cost of labor, raw materials, personnel, whatever, in a specific activity or step, okay? And it results in a defective service, or final product. We need to know what it is that's creating, back to the cause-effect logic, we know what's creating the inefficiencies. And once again, that ABC case study, it's concise, it's clean, it's easy to read. That's worth your while to take a look at, please. Okay, root causes. Use the chat box here for me, but I just want to make sure you've already done your root cause analysis for your MVP. True statement? I'm going to take this off so you can talk. You've already done your root cause analysis. True statement?
We have a fishbone.
Okay, yeah, fishbone, but have you formally identified and articulated your root cause?
No.
Okay, I thought that was in MVP 2. Okay, well, it's one of your assignments to do so, your team assignment, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I was hoping you already had that done. That can be time consuming. We'll do what we got to do. All right, we will take care of it. Okay, so software's back on. Okay, let me go back just in case. Okay. Third bullet. Okay, when I say okay, root cause. What exactly are you talking about? A root cause. Third bullet here. A root cause is the initiating cause or condition or causal chain that leads to an outcome or specific defect. Okay, it's used to describe in depth the causal chain where intervention can be implemented to improve the performance or to prevent a defective outcome. Okay, this part right here is important. That's your takeaway from this slide. That's an extremely critical concept for you all to understand. If we need to talk about that anymore offline, please let me know. Okay, stay with me, folks. We're almost finished. All right. Assignments for lesson 1, team assignments 1 and 2, and an individual assignment and some DQs. Okay, team assignment 1, root cause analysis. When you have a chance, read through this in detail. The bottom line is, for the inefficiencies or problems you're trying to solve, we need to identify what the root cause is. What is causing it? One slide. If you need amplifying data, supporting data, put that on additional slides, and that goes into backup slides. Team assignment number 2, cost driver analysis. Okay. State the specific consequences for each problem statement issue and CRM performance gap. Okay, one PowerPoint slide. And then classify the cost for me. Matthew, I'm going to take the dictation software off for a second. Questions with regards to team assignment 1 and 2? Does everybody understand what they need to do and what's required of y'all? 1 potato, 2 potato. Okay, we're present.
Yes. I think so.
Okay. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. Individual assignment 1.3. Okay. 2 case summaries. And you pick them from the cases that are listed in the syllabus. One of the case studies needs to be either AT&T Paradigm or the Cambridge Hospital case study. Okay? All that's required here are 2 pages double spaced. Folks, I'm sorry. Excuse me just a second. Seeger, 9. 9. There's my dog saw, I think, a deer in the yard. Anyhow, it's just 2 pages. Okay? A summary of the case study, overview, identification of key issues identified here, and then what you would do to solve it. I'm looking for quality, not quantity. Okay? It's an executive level briefing of the case studies. Okay? Don't make it harder than what it is. What's this case about? What are the important issues? What would you do to fix it? And of course, I want you to justify your recommendation. It was just 2 pages, double space is the minimum. If you want to do more, of course you're welcome to do more. But please don't write 15, 20 pages on this. Please don't do that. Okay. Okay. Discussion question 1 is posted. It's very straightforward. Okay. GIM Academy has 2 short videos. I think they're like 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes apiece. And they're specifically about lean accounting and costing things out with lean accounting. Okay. All this is posted on the portal, by the way. Right. Your discussion question 2 is as follows. Okay. In your own words, explain the difference. And in your own words, tell me why that's important. I'm looking to make sure you understand the concepts that we discussed. Okay. And Matthew, I'll look at, he's a German Shepherd. Okay. Schutzhund, if you're familiar. He's our 3rd Shepherd. And I got a soft spot for animals, but I'm partial to shepherds. Judith had a question about the dog. Let's see. Matthew, I'm looking at the chat for any questions you might have. Wow. Matthew, I'm looking at the chat for any questions you may have. And I'm going to turn the software off here for a second. We're almost through, folks. Thanks so much for staying with me. Okay. Any questions from anybody about anything up to this point? And I know that was dry. I appreciate you just doing what you got to do and staying with me. Everybody understand what the assignments, what you're responsible for, why we're doing things the way we do it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In that case, we'll wrap it up. We're still getting out a few minutes early, and 15 minutes is more than enough time to view those videos. Okay, so I try to accommodate that, when we do it. This is probably the longest class. So, okay. Before I turn the dictation software back on for Matthew, anybody get anything for me offline, and any odds and ends, anything at all?
Do you mind if we send you the resume tomorrow? Unfortunately, my computer crashed and I don't have it on my cell phone.
Not a problem, sir. If that's the biggest issue that we face, we're doing fine. Okay. I just want the resume so I know each of your background, and it helps me, hopefully helps me, communicate and relate to how you all interpret the material. Also helps me select examples and everything, depending on folks' background. Get those things to me as at your convenience, as soon as practical. Anybody else? Okay, folks, you're free to go. You can stay if you like. I'm going to chat with Matthew just for a little bit more. If anybody has any questions after the fact, anything you forgot to ask, please let me know, and I will also I'll also be This will be recording. It'll be posted. And also I'll post my introductory slides. Okay. It was a pleasure to meet you all. Looking forward to working together. And going forward, it'll be much more interactive as we review the assignments and all that. Thank you all very much, and take care.
Hey, good night.
Okay, Matthew, I'm back. And just reading your question now. To answer your question, it could be a starting point to understand the financial issues, especially as they relate to interpreting quality issues. Okay, but it's not a traditional accounting course in that sense. It's more of a higher level, executive level approach to articulating Lean Six Sigma and DMAIC methodology in a financial context, and also identifying how traditional accounting systems don't really give you the information you need to effectively evaluate an individual process. Does that answer your question, sir? Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised that's not done already. And this is something for the folks that are still here. You need to have a finance type in your organization. Let me slide this down. As part of your guiding coalition. Your guiding coalition. I did not say that. As part of your guiding coalition. Okay. I got to talk to the software developer about this thing. And the reason I say that is that it is not practical or appropriate for you or any other member of your team to try to come up with complicated accounting reports. That is a separate expertise, and why we have accountants do it for us. And I apologize for a long-winded response, but this is very important, and I want to make sure you and everybody understand this. Because of the complexity of the accounting process, you need subject matter experts, at least one, within your organization to be a member of your guiding coalition. There's two reasons for this. The first reason is to be able to have accounting data that is credible. That is credible. Doggone it. Because obviously, without credible data, or if you're using data that is that's inaccurate, okay, often referred to as data integrity, the conclusions of your project is suspect. You can't perform a effective analysis if the data integrity is compromised. And similarly, if you were looking at an issue with a chemical plant or a software development firm, you need subject matter experts to give you accurate data. So if you haven't had the opportunity, please reach out to finance types or accounting types, not tires, types, not tires. Reach out to accounting types in your organization. There's a second reason for that. First one, like we said, was to get accurate data. The second reason then is as you draw conclusions that have finance and accounting consequences, you don't inadvertently insult the personnel in the in-house accounting and finance department. And by enlisting and receiving their cooperation, you are indirectly getting their buy-in and concurrence with the financial numbers, getting their buy-in and their concurrence with the financial numbers and financial conclusions that you are using in your project. Does that make sense, sir? Yes, they have to be a stakeholder, but also because of the complexity that's involved, they're an invaluable component to your team. Matthew, you're very welcome. Take care of yourself. It's a pleasure to have you in the class. Okay. Are we good? Is there anything else you want to discuss? Okay, I'm going to sign off. Reach out to me at any time. And have a good night. Have a good night.